Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Carl coming back at you from Rare Candy, and after a long holiday and New Year's break, we are finally back with the Dallas Regionals trading card game expanded meta discussion. And today, I decided to kick it up a notch a little bit. I have an extra guest here. You know, typically we have the three guest formula where we bring three people in that have some pretty good accomplishments, throw it around. I decided, you know what, let's have an extra one here just to add more to the discussion because we're going into a regional here that's kind of blind. Card pool is extremely large. There's been some new cards released since, well, not exactly, but it's been a while since the last expanded event, and I feel like the majority of the trading card community is a bit lost. So I wanted to bring in an extra guest today just to help us learn a little bit about where expanded is at. And to help me do that, I have Tanner Hurley, Hunter Butler, Arlo Neel, and Michael Catron here. Four super accomplished players in their own right. Guys you've definitely seen around before. Starting with Tanner. Tanner's a first-year master, so he's been ripping up seniors for a long, long time now. And to kind of kick things off in his first year as a master, he's got 3 day twos at the regionals that he's gone to. So I got Tanner here, great mind, young kid, trying to get in. He's hungry, trying to go to Dallas and take home some glass. So that's Tanner, it's good to have you on, man. I'm really happy to have you on here. I know you've been chomping at the bit for a Rare Candy appearance, and I'm super glad that we made it work out.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I got Hunter Butler. Hunter's a return guest to Rare Candy. I love having Hunter on the videos here because I think he's one of the best deck builders in the entire game. He comes up with a lot of creative ideas. He's a writer for Cutter Tap, and if you haven't noticed any of that, then you had to have noticed him get top 8 at NAIC this past year with Spiritomb. Kind of putting that deck on the map a little bit. It was kind of hyped going into the event, but if there was any question about it, Hunter definitely put those to rest, and he continues to have a great season going into this year. I think he's maybe just a couple points short of his World's invite already, and it's only January or something like that. Hunter, thanks for coming back, man. It's really good to have you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you got for us today, even if it's not a whole lot or you don't want to leak anything. It's good to have you aboard, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I got plenty to leak. So this one's more of a fun tournament for me because I got school. So I'm super down to leak for this one.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Coming in behind Hunter, I have Arlo Neel. Arlo is probably, in my view, I might be a little biased because I like Arlo. Arlo is one of the bigger up-and-coming people in the game over the past couple years. He got top 4 at Greensboro Regionals last year in 2019. He kind of, lately, he's seeming to put himself in the conversation for, top 32s, top 16s, even top 8s at all the events he's going to. Really smart kid. Part of this kind of class of younger players that's coming up, kind of along with Tanner. Catron's been around, so I really can't mention him. But, just kind of part of that class of young minds coming up in the game. Arlo, it's really good to have you on the channel today, man. I know you've also been kind of in line with Tanner, so I'm really happy to get you on, and I'm glad we made it work out. How are you feeling about Dallas, buddy?
Yeah, looking good so far. Hoping to get some more testing done.
Yeah, I know you're pretty hyped about the whole expanded format, right? From what I've read.
Probably, we'll see.
Yeah. Cool, man. And then behind Arlo, I got Michael Catron. Kind of, I don't know if Catron needs any introduction. This is a man that makes 10-cent cards multiply by hundreds in price on TCG Player. He seems to have a big penchant for taking cards that nobody's really thinking about and making them not only relevant, but turning them into top 16 or top 8 regional lists. Another super creative mind as far as deck building goes. He's always at Worlds. He's always in contention at some of these events. Very smart, very good deck builder, very creative. So I'm going to close everything out with Catron here. Catron, how you doing, man? How you feeling about Dallas? How do you feel about Expanded?
Feeling pretty good about Dallas if I get to go, and then I didn't like Expand to start, but it's kind of growing on me. I found a couple decks that I think are pretty good, and we'll see how the meta goes, I guess.
Awesome. So I got a couple different things to talk about Expanded today, and I'm really looking forward to the whole discussion because I'm somebody that hates Expanded. Maybe it's because I'm a newer player. I haven't been playing for... I feel like you guys have been playing for quite a while. I'm still relatively new, a couple years in. There's a lot of cards in Expanded that I'm not even aware of. And as a player who's trying to be very competitive, it's kind of annoying to have to deal with those things or read up on those things or prepare for those things. Since it's been so long since an event, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on where Expanded is at right now and what somebody who's just venturing into Expanded needs to know about the format. So I'll start with Tanner. Tanner, where are we at with Expanded right now, and what do you think somebody who's never tried Expanded needs to know about the format?
Yeah, so Expanded's definitely changed a lot since the last regionals. With all the control cards banned, Zoro Control isn't nearly as good as it has been in the past. Turbo Dark is a really good deck right now. Zoro Garb is good. I don't know what else really. But those two are really good plays. Mewtwo is pretty good.
Okay, so it seems like there's a couple decks that are pretty much on everybody's radar. You know, I've heard from other players on the channel that there's a certain way that you play Expanded, like you play out of the discard pile mainly. Do you think that still applies as far as where we are now with like how things have, the release of these cards over the past couple months that kind of have changed the whole Expanded metagame?
Yeah, Expanded is definitely more of an aggressive format compared to Standard. But it's still very skill-based. Managing resources is really important.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Hunter, where do you think we are with Expanded right now, and is there anything that somebody who's venturing into Expanded has to know about the format before playing?
So, like Tanner said, the format has definitely it became more fair. Like the decks that really didn't have a chance because of Zoro Control now have a little bit of a chance. But I guess the things I would say to a person who's never played Expanded is games normally don't go very long, like maybe 7-8 turns, and usually the game is over, or by turn 3 or 4 you kind of know if you're on the back foot or not. Like the comment you made about playing out of the discard pile, that's definitely true. You do play out of the discard pile more than you do in Standard, except for Malamar. Another thing is a lot of ideas that wouldn't work in Standard because they're a little too frail are easier to work in Expanded because of the card pool. So something like the Ultra Necrozma that basically has 0 support to work in Standard because it has all these other cards that you like Silent Lab and Ball cards and Gizmahala and Energy Lotto and things like that. It can make a card that would seem not so good, pretty much unplayable to an archetype. And then as far as the meta goes, I think Dark is basically the gatekeeper or the door holder. If you can beat Dark, Dark opens the door for you and your deck can work. If you can't beat Dark, you got to hope that your Tom gives you the day of a lifetime. So I don't know how you would play a deck that doesn't beat Dark. But I agree with Tanner as well. The big 4 or 5 that I've had in my mind has been Dark, Zoro Garb, Mew 3, Ultra Necrozma, and Guardian. So it's I tie Ultra Necrozma and Guardian together as the arguably 4th spot for the big 4, because I think both of them could be one could show out more than the other, but they're both solid decks. Yeah. So I think we have a solid tier 1, tier 1.5, but tier 2 and below is 25 decks. So I don't know where we're at with all that stuff.
Interesting. The card pool is what bothers me the most about Expanded. It just feels like too much. We'll talk about that later on, but that was a ton of information, and you named a bunch of decks that I'm hoping to individually go over at least a little bit later on in the video. So thanks for that. Arlo, I want to know your thoughts on Expanded, where you think the format is at right now, how you feel about it, maybe something for players who are trying to venture into Expanded.
Yeah, so my take on Expanded has always been, ever since I was first introduced in the format, maybe a year or 2 into when I was playing, it's it's kind of like Standard, but everything's a lot faster and a lot more consistent, which is what I really like to think about is how much more consistent each deck is, because you have, 2 or 3 eras of sets available to you. So it's a lot of cards to be able to work with to make your deck set up as consistently as possible. Mm-hmm. So a big example I like to think about is how, remember last year in Standard Zoroark, you were just 100, 120, 2-shot deck that tried to heal when Zoropod first came out. And it Expanded, you could bench 8 Pokemon on your field and hit 210 with a choice band. So you have a lot more options. Being able to do high damage caps just kind of come out of nowhere. And a lot of things that I really like about Expanded is that you never know what you're going to hit, because I think like a couple expanded regionals, I've hit 3 decks. I don't think I ever would have expected to hit in my entire lifetime playing Pokemon. So that's always a really neat experience when someone brings something really creative to the table and expanded.
Yeah, that's one of the cool parts, I think, is you could realistically sit down across from anything. And I think it's interesting that you said that you like that, because that is what bothers me about Expanded. It feels almost impossible to prepare for an event the way that I would like to.
Yeah, that's all good.
I think it allows more. I mean, like, to kind of give credit to what you're saying, I think it allows more for people who are able to think up a game plan on the fly, aka like skill, to take over.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Maybe it's just my inexperience with the format, which is why I think that. But that's why I bring you guys in to educate me a little bit. Catron, how do you feel about Expanded? And what would you say to a player who's trying to venture into playing Expanded? And how do you feel about the format overall?
For a newer player, if unless this is like their first time playing Pokemon as Expanded, it's really not that different from playing Standard. Like, when I was a junior in 2012 at my first Worlds, I was playing Night Spear Darkrai, and it's 2020 now, and we're still playing Night Spear Darkrai in our decks. And so, like, the cards that are good are almost always still good. Like, one of the decks I'm really focused on Expanded right now is Pikarom, and Pikarom's been good in Standard for a year now. Mm-hmm. So people shouldn't be too worried about how different the format is. You just have to kind of look at it as like we're just playing a faster game now rather than we're taking an extra 2 or 3 turns to finish the game like we are in Standard.
Cool. Okay. So I kind of want to start with the question that I want to have answered by a bunch of good players. So selfishly, I'm going to start here. I'll start with Hunter. Hunter, do you think it's possible with a card pool so large to find the best deck in the format?
Well, I feel like that's a loaded question because I feel like we already have the best deck, and it's dark. And I feel like the reason we're even trying to find out what beats dark is because anybody who has a brain doesn't want to play it. So that's the only reason that I think all the good players are just like, and I think this is still possible, that all the good players could just do this and go, well, I'm sick of spending all this time on other decks when I could just straight up play dark, draw the stones, and win the tournament. Like, I think I can strongly say that dark is the best deck for the tournament, and I can almost like 85% say that dark is the best deck in format. And the reason I say that is because most BDIFs, the only way you beat them is by playing a deck that is fully centralized on beating it. So like Dark just checks all these random decks that try to come in with cards like now even Guzzlord. Like having Baby Guzzlord to be like, well, now anytime I play against a random one prize deck, I can get the prize string back. And anytime you have a big Pokemon that I can't knock out, then I have Dead End. Now I have a problem mismanaging my energy attachments. Cool, it doesn't even matter. I have Weavile, so I can move around all my energy. It just gives so many options for you. Like I also said this to Finn, is like Dark gives you the most options to misplay because there's so many things you can do. Like you can misplay and be like, holy crap, I have Weavile, I can just totally do something else. Or I went too deep on my resources, but because Guzzlord's taking an extra prize, it doesn't matter. There's just so many things that are happening all conjunctively that when you're playing the game out, it's more or less a prize hunt than anything,
Interesting. Yeah. I could definitely see that. I've heard the most chatter about Dark, and it just has so many tools, especially over the course of, 40 sets? It's like you could reasonably find anything to throw in there that could kind of just throw a wrinkle into the deck, which is pretty much what Expanded to me is entirely predicated on. So, Arlo, do you think it's possible? Do you agree with Hunter, or do you think the best deck in format kind of fluctuates by tournament, or how do you feel about finding the undisputed best option in Expanded?
Well, usually in Expanded events, there's a tier 1 that's 2 to 3 decks. Mm-hmm. That in between 3 different tournaments, each deck could win each respective tournament. But I feel like for this particular Expanded event, Dark is just undisputed the best deck. Like Hunter said, you have to hardcore tech for it or you're not going to beat it. and it's like it has so many different options to kind of counteract what your opponent can throw at you.
Yeah.
Like the option that like Mega Saboltar and Guzzler can just take extra prizes can really throw off some decks.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like for this particular meta, there is a best deck in format, and that changed a lot of how people's decks are going to be played or tech and stuff such as that. But I feel like in previous expanded events, and less the Zoro Eggs era when that was just the best deck, it's always been just like a collection of top decks that anyone could see winning the tournament.
It's kind of nice to have such a varied tier 1. Like, from the decks you listed earlier, that were listed earlier in the discussion, like, it seems like you kind of... The barrier to entry to expanded seems kind of difficult in the beginning, but like once you get into it and understand the format, like you could play anything. You'll find a deck that fits your playstyle and probably have a good time, which is kind of neat. Catron, do you think it's possible to find the best deck in the format in expanded, and do you think it's dark as well?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Whether it's dark is something that'll probably be determined at the event. I think dark's the strongest known deck. I think stuff could definitely come out, or new text or decks could come out that swing them into being the best deck in the format. Dark is just all around really strong. Like Hunter said, it has options for everything. The biggest thing, in my opinion, it really gained was the Guzzlord to, not really because of the one prizes, just killing Shamans with Guzzlord for 3 prizes is pretty important in a lot of matchups. Yeah, and great catcher too. Being able to Sycamore and also get your Gust effect off is pretty important for Dark. I do think the deck's strong, but I don't know if it's really the best deck in the format. I think there are some strategies that can beat it. For instance, Pigrom, which I've been testing, like I said. I think the matchup you can just kill 3 2-prizers or kill a 2-prizer, and then GX and take a knockout on 2 different things. And it usually goes in Picrom's favor from my testing. And I also think Guardian has a chance at the top spot. I think people don't really know how to play the deck optimally, and it's super, super strong if played well.
Cool. Tanner, do you think Dark is the best deck in Expanded, or do you think it's possible to find the best deck in the format in Expanded, or what are your thoughts on the upper tier?
Oh, I mean, we've been testing Dark a pretty good amount. It's been really strong. Even the decks that are supposed to just... I think it's the best deck going into the event, but I don't doubt that somebody's going to pull up with a deck that's just way better and has some weird combo. So I think it's definitely possible to find the best deck in the format, but if somebody will, no. But personally, right now, Dark is definitely the best.
Cool. So basically, all 4 of you are saying come prepared to beat Dark, or else you're going to have a bad time?
If you can't beat Dark, do not buy a flight to Dallas. Do not.
I 100% agree with Hunter on that one.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. So we covered Turbo Dark, which is supposedly one of the best decks in the format. I have a couple other decks that I want to go over, decks that Hunter named earlier, specifically Mewtwo, Ultra Necrozma, and Guardian. So I want to start with Arlo. We're going to throw it around on Mew3 really quickly. How do you feel about Mew3? Do you think it's best deck in format contender? Do you think it's going to be played heavily? What are your thoughts on it heading into Dallas?
So Mew3 is it's like more of a toolbox deck than you see in Standard. In Standard, you kind of just do as much damage as possible and have extra counters to your Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
But in Expanded, they're more so trying to slow everything down in the beginning. And with cards such as Distort and Sonic Volume off of, I can't remember the name of the card for some reason. Noivern. Yeah, off of Noivern GX. And you also try and wipe the board like Arceus used to do with stuff like Giratina's Distortion Door and stuff like Alolan Marowak or Ivysaur, which can, with their GX attack, can like discard a lot of their opponent's bench Pokemon, take a lot of prizes early game. So I feel like it's just a one of everything in deck because it can also has Oko potential thanks to Garchomp, Giratina, and Lopunny. And I feel like it's the only deck that can consistently have a 50-50 against Dark and without hard teching for it. So I feel like it's a really good deck. But yet again, it is a special energy and stadium reliant deck, so that can be a little scary sometimes when playing against just like random deck Expanded. Like you You could play Mewtwo and hit a Honchkrow and just get absolutely destroyed, and because there's nothing you can do realistically to counteract a card like that. Like, that's the only issue I really have with Mewtwo, but I feel like it's a super strong deck and has a lot of options. And if you play well, you can get pretty far into the tournament.
Mm-hmm. I would assume that Honchkrow play would probably go down based off last regional, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not like a deck that you should expect going into the tournament, but it's
it can happen. Yeah.
Some poor soul is going to go in there and just not hit any dark and just do really well with it.
Yeah, he's just going to full send greens for Duststone.
At Virginia, I lost my winning into a quad Honchkrow.
They're out there.
Yeah, they're flying.
They're definitely out there.
Interesting. Yep. There's just so much, man. Catron, what are your thoughts on Mewtwo?
I think the deck's really bad. It's kind of like standard Malamar. It just has a lot of options, but like your options all suck. And I think the biggest thing it has going for it is it just beats bad players because they don't really know what's going on. Like, you have too many options all at once that it's hard to counter everything, which is the deck's like strong point. But if you know how to stop them from doing what they want to do, or are willing to play the odds that they can't pull something off, and you know you can pretty reasonably guess what they can and can't pull off, it's pretty likely you're going to beat it. The deck's just like it's just not very good. Like, you get to distort and you get to use Mega Guardy, but you're not really doing anything special, whereas Dark's doing 300 damage on one turn. Zorogarb is drawing their entire deck, one-shotting you, and ending you with Garbotoxin. Everything's doing something broken, and you're using Distortion Door 3 times a turn.
So it sounds like the more oppressive a deck could be, the better option it is in expanded, and distorting or what's the other one? Sonic Volume are not the most oppressive. So it's oppressive with damage or drawing your entire deck. That's the key to expanded, it would seem. Okay, cool. Tanner, what are your thoughts on Mewtwo?
I think it's a super mediocre deck, as Catron said. It just doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. In theory, it's very good, but it loses to Dark. It loses to Guardy, I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you definitely do not do well against Guardy.
Yeah, Guardy's super bad.
It can just lose to a lot of things. Can lose to Zorogarb if they play Mew. I just don't even do it's a very good deck.
Yeah, okay. It does seem like it loses to a lot of stuff, especially with like Power Plant seeing play in a couple decks, and obviously having Anon Stamp, that's probably easy to find. It doesn't seem like the most strong option, just from somebody who...
I wouldn't even be surprised if it lost to that Ultra Necro deck.
Interesting. Cool. Hunter, any final thoughts on Mewtwo?
I agree with Catron's kind of point that the reason Mew 3 is strong is when your opponent doesn't know what you're trying to do. Like, I think, and I don't mean it like as in like they don't know what Mewtwo is doing. They don't know like what route they're going down. Like, are you trying to use Tina Chomp? Are you trying to use Lopunny? Are you trying to use Distortion? Or are you trying to use Despair Ray? You know, when your opponent knows what attacks you're trying to go for, and obviously the Stadium War is a big thing for Mewtwo. So if any deck plays Chaotic Swell or any ability lock Pokemon like Garbodor, or God for sake, if you play against a Muck, you know, these types of things. There's just a lot of things that, like Catron said, other decks can do against you, and I feel like it's the fairest of the top of the tier 1 decks. It doesn't do anything exponentially ridiculous besides board wiping, but Zorogarbs have already, because of this mass 6 weeks where everyone's like panicking about the meta, and we're just stuck with the decks that we know about. Yeah. Everyone's already like intertect their decks, like Zorak has Mr. Mime for Mewtwo. So because of how this meta is being shaped basically on the internet, I just don't think Mew 3 is that good. I do coach Kieran Wagner, so he plays the deck a lot. I think you have to be someone who puts in a lot of hours with the deck, and like Catron said, you got to play against someone who has no idea what you're doing. Yeah. And then I think the deck's all right.
Okay, cool. So kind of a damning indictment on Mewtwo there by all you guys. One deck that I want to look at that is relatively unexplored, and I've heard everything about this deck from best deck in format to absolute trash. Back when Hey Fonte was a thing, and now kind of seeing some expanded discussions around the internet, is the new Ultra Necrozma from Cosmic Eclipse. I believe, for a Psychic and a Metal, you do 170 and discard one of your opponent's active's energy, but it can't attack unless your opponent has 2 or less prizes.
Yes.
So the way to play the deck is obviously with Silent Lab to get around that, Double Dragon Energy for powering up very quickly. And I know nothing about the deck, but I would assume that Guzma and Hala would be a thing that you would use in that deck.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's just from taking a quick look at it. So since we've had so many polarizing opinions on this deck, I kind of wanted to get your individual thoughts on it. I'm going to start with Catron. Catron, do you think this deck is good? Is it playable? What tier would you put it on if you had to say?
I'd probably say it's tier 2. I've played the deck a little. I think it's kind of like the new Hitmonwob, if that makes sense. It's the one-ties deck that hits pretty hard, but it kind of just needs a lot. It does have Guzma Hala, which gets you off the attack every time, assuming you have an Ultra Necro. But the deck's just a little too inconsistent for my liking, because you don't really want to have Lele, their Shamans in your deck, because if they're GX Pokemon, they lose you the prize trade. And, the attack's really strong, but if you hit a single prize deck or someone who can stop you from taking a knockout and is able to discard your energies or discard all your stadiums and just make it so you can't attack eventually, you lose the game, which is a big flaw in the deck, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I also think the deck's very hard to play, and it's not rewarding enough to want to play that deck and have to think through everything very methodically for such a low reward when you could just be playing Dark and taking a one-shot and go on with your day.
Gotcha. So you're pairing it with Garb?
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
I think I play with Garb.
Cool. Tanner, what do you think about the deck?
I think it's pretty good in the early game, but I think it tends to fall apart. Ends can be pretty annoying. Sometimes it just doesn't draw what it needs, and it needs a lot to attack. Even with Guzma Hala, sometimes you won't draw the Ultra Necro. So I think it can definitely be slowed down a lot. I don't think it's the best deck, but I agree with Catron. I think it's pretty tier 2. Mm-hmm. It could turn out to be good. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 in day 2, but I don't think it'll go super far.
Cool. Okay. Hunter, what about you?
Okay, so I've actually put a lot of time into Ultra Necrozma, so I actually like Ultra Necrozma, and I think it's between tier 1.5 and tier 1, and it's actually it's the second best testing deck other than Dark, obviously, because it's tested the best. Mm-hmm. But the second best deck for me personally in my testing has been Ultra Necrozma, and I'm playing 2/2 Octillery and 1/1 Muck, and I'm also playing Neolego, Guznag, 2 Psychics, a Metal, a Beast Ring, and I'm playing a Beast Energy and a Buzzmosa. So I'm playing more of a Beast box deck. It's not all in on Ultra Necrozma. I'm only playing 3 of them. But I think the attack's super strong. I think a lot of people aren't building it necessarily the right way. I like Garbodor. Garbotoxin's awesome and is awesome, but I kind of don't want to get Garbotoxin End, so that's why I went with the Octillery route. And I have 2 Hypnotoxic Lasers to be able to one-shot Zoroark with a Choice Band and a Hypnotoxic Laser. So I'm going... Yeah, so you do 210. So that's the way I'm building it right now. And it's been testing pretty well. Guznag is honestly the big part of the deck. Some games you can just go turn 1, attach Psychic or Metal or Beast Energy to Guznag, and then sometimes if it's not Dark, any deck that's not Dark is either smacking you or setting up, and then you're immediately just going 180 Chaotic Order. Cool, you took 3 prizes. Now I attack with Ultra Necrozma for 170 up to 210 with Choice Band and Laser, and then I have Neolego to attack on the 2 prize turn. So I think if you're building a straight Ultra Necrozma deck, you don't have enough options and you don't have enough steam. But I think if you have other attackers that you can put investment into, the deck can work. And I actually really like it. It's definitely in my top 3.
That version of the deck sounds extremely good. because on its own it does kind of sound like an underwhelming attacker as the game gets farther along and the more developed, and then you have multiple ways to take 2 or 3, even 3 prizes at once. So that sounds really good.
And because something really cool that you can like plan that your opponent like won't see if they don't until you play game 1 is you can Guzmahala for the choice band and the beast energy, and then the next turn drop your Buzzwole, drop your to your energy and your tool, and then Guzma. And so you're able to take 3 prizes on a Shaman, 2 prizes on any 1 prize deck, or anything like that. So
wow,
it comes in handy.
I want to test that. That sounds pretty good. Arlo, any final thoughts on the deck that maybe nobody else has covered before, or how you personally feel about it?
Yeah, I really like Ultra Necrozma. Kind of like Catron said, the deck is stupid hard to play sometimes because your Pokemon is very restricted in its way of attacking with its ability.
Mm-hmm.
So my personal favorite way to play it is the same way as Hunter. You play like 2/2 Artillery and Muck and Tech Attackers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the best way. I kind of biased because I've never really tried the Garbodor version because I hate Garbotoximing myself and then getting end because I do that some dark and it's really broken. And I feel like you need to have as much card draw and options as possible with the deck. So I feel like that's the best way to play it. But you never know. Garbotoxin could still be really good if I tried it. But I feel like the deck is definitely in tier 2 and a low tier 1 potentially. And I think its ability to show big at Dallas is not too high, but it could definitely see some top 16s, maybe 1 in top 8.
Is that another deck that loses to Honchkrow turn 1?
Yeah, bro.
I have 2 psychics and a metal, so I can hang for a little bit, but not long.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's typically pretty unfavored, guys.
I would say it's like 80-20.
Okay. Yeah. So it's
Honchkrow's he's a jerks.
Honchkrow is the great meta check, right? In Expanded.
Yeah, probably.
The check that no one has the nuts to play because you just lose to Dark.
Because you lose to everything else.
If there was a way that you could play
I'm playing.
Honchkrow and you could beat Dark, Honchkrow would be the best deck, hands down.
It'd be the best card ever.
So, all right. Well, you guys better get to work. You got about what's Friday? You got about once a week and 12 hours.
No way.
We're on B string to Buzzwole GX. Here we go.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, here we are. So the last deck that I want to talk about is Guardian. Obviously, one of my favorite decks. I've seen a lot of success with Guardian. All my CP this year is from Guardian, albeit in Standard. I'm going to start with Tanner. Tanner, what are your thoughts about Guardian? Is it in Tier 1? Is there anything neat you could play with it for Expanded since there's so many more options? Or are we kind of looking at it... didn't it win a Regionals? No, that was Standard.
Yeah, it was Standard.
So, yeah, just your overall thoughts on Guardian. Maybe something neat if you've tried it.
Yeah, I haven't tested Guardian much, but I think it's a pretty good deck. The low punny is pretty good in there. Just being able to knock things out easily helps against your dark matchup, which I haven't tested that matchup at all, so I don't know if it's good or not. But the deck itself does seem pretty good. Doesn't need that much to function, so I think it's good. I think it'll definitely do pretty well.
Cool. Hunter, what are your thoughts on Guardian?
Okay, so to kind of answer Tanner's question, I think you're unfavored against Dark unless you play Comfy. So I've put Comfy in the deck. It's a fairy Pokemon that allows you to not be affected by special conditions. So against Shock Lock, they can't do anything. They cannot dead end. They can't dead end you. They can't put you to sleep. They can't do anything. So once Comfy got put in the deck, then it's finally started beating Dark. So if you're going to play Guardian, I would highly suggest you try Comfy. It's pretty good. I like the deck overall. I definitely think it's Tier 1. Although I'm not a big fan of linear decks, so it's not something I will probably play because I like to have a little more options than 3 attacks. But I think Power Plant is strong, Chaotic Swell is strong, Silent Lab is strong, all strong Stradiums that you can try in the deck in different counts. Obviously, Fighting Fury Belt, Wonder Energy is super cool as well. Helps you against stupid stuff like random lock attacks. And I think the deck's overall pretty straightforward and consistent, which is something you might not always find in like a quad decks. at least like over the years, most quad decks are not very consistent, but this is one that is. And Aromatisse Max Potion will always be a good combo. So I think if you like Guardian and you want to give Fairy Pokemon one last ride, go ahead and get it going.
Yeah, it's a heavy contender for me because I love Guardian so much, and I want to use it while I can. And I think that might be a heavy favorite for me if I end up booking my flight tonight to go down there. Arlo, any thoughts on Guardian? Have you tested it at all? Thoughts about it against Dark?
Yeah, my friend Drew Kate, who actually lives 10 minutes from me, he's shout out to Drew, by the way, great guy. And he told me the night before Richmond, the rent, he created the deck and brought it to Richmond and top forward. He told me he was playing that deck, and I was like, "Are you stupid? How does that deck beat anything?" And I originally wrote him off, and then he made top four at the event and made the deck a lasting archetype in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, from what we've tested it recently, it's pretty good. I really like the deck's ability to, if you're not one-shotting me, you're not winning, ever, because you have so many healing options. And of course, it's kind of like a pseudo control deck because you have the healing and you have the Magical Miracle and all the disruptive stadiums. And it's like a pseudo control attacking deck, it's similar to its standard style, but obviously you have less healing options. So that's a deck that's really fun to play, but it's also quite linear. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely tier 1. And yeah, Isaac and I were testing the Comfy last night, and he started it every single game. It was really funny.
Yeah, I've known Drew for quite a while, over a year, and just a great deck builder. And just shout out to Drew for putting the deck on the map, so to speak, that top 4 a couple weeks ago. Catron, I want to know how you feel about Guardian. I feel like you're not going to like it. I feel like you'll find something wrong with it.
If I were to play one of the top decks, I probably wouldn't actually be playing Guardian.
Shows what I know.
I've always liked the energy moving cards. I've played a lot of them. But I think Guardian's just super strong. The ability to heal everything just feels so good in this format. Mm-hmm. Between Thorogarb, Eggrow, Ultra Necro, none of those decks can really deal with Guardian very well. And so it just has a lot of matchups that it just kind of bodies. And Dark's not an amazing matchup. Comfey helps, Lopunny helps, but I'd still say it's generally Dark favored. I do think the deck's super strong, though, and I'd probably still take it because I do think you can steal theories from Dark, and I think it has some of the better matchups across the board and is better suited for any rogue decks than most things are.
Cool.
Yeah, that's one thing Drew told me is that I'm just going to play Guardian, and if I hit any random rogue decks, I'll just smack them.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I felt in the beginning of the Worlds format with Guardian, because there was no steal, and there wasn't a lot of one-shot potential unless things went horribly wrong. And a lot of decks weren't really built at the time to deal with the Fairy Charms, which was cool. I mean, obviously as the format kind of grew, then people were using Lysander Lab and stuff, but I've always felt that Guardian was really good against random stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see that still kind of surviving and expanded. Speaking about those rogues and one prizers, are there any rogues or one prizers or decks that no one's talking about that you guys think could come out of nowhere and maybe make a run to top 8? I'll start with Hunter.
All right, so I got a decent list here. So if we're gonna go in the one prize category, I think Night March is something that can pop up and do well.
Okay.
You definitely take a favorable Dark matchup for sure. And Zorogarb doesn't play Oricorio anymore because you don't have room for it. You're taking
I definitely play Oricorio still.
Oh, well, you can play Oricorio, and you still got bodied. But that's me and Catron played at Virginia, and he prized his Oricorio 2 games. He got bopped. But so I think Night March could do it. That's probably the end of non-GX decks. Me and Finn are currently working on a spread deck with Tapacoco, Electropower, and the Roxy engine with Weezings, and then 2 of the Shadowbox Mimikyus. So
Wow.
we've been trying that out. I don't think it's going to be like amazing, but you definitely trash Zoroark, and I think you can convincingly beat Dark because of Pseudo Widow count energy and all that type of stuff. So those are like 2 one-prize decks. As far as rogue deck goes, these 2 decks aren't rogue, and Catron mentioned one, but Pikarom and Archies are being like super neglected right now, as like people just forgot that they're even decks.
Yeah.
And I think Archies is still like fine right now, and it gets Misty Lorelei, which is super nice. So you can use Palkia more than once, or Wailord more than once, or whatever you want to use more than once.
Yeah.
And Pikarom also, the pressure of being able to pull off an attack turn 1 is relatively smooth for Pikarom, just like it's smooth for Dark. And you have a little bit more HP, and you accelerate energy, and you have the Tag Bolt, so those are nice. So those aren't really rogues, but I think those are 2 decks people are neglecting.
Slept on.
And then my favorite rogue deck right now is actually the Bird Trio deck. I'm really interested in that. I think you have so many ways you can build it with the Reshi Zekrom and Guznag and Tina Chomp and Giratina EX, or full-on Ninja Boy or Pyroar. There's so many ways you can go with it. But I think the Bird Trio is really strong. 210 or 210 with a choice band, 240 is a really good number, and 110 3 times is really good because you can wipe the board of Ultra Necrozmas, wipe the board of Shamans, or clean up damaged Pokemon from earlier turns. So as far as like solid rogues, I think Bird Trio's definitely my top rogue for the tournament.
Awesome. That's a whole ton of stuff. Arlo, any interesting decks that you think are slept on?
Hunter already mentioned Night March, which is a deck I brought to a League Cup and just drew the stones. But I feel like the deck
that's what Night March does.
That deck, Drew and I were testing the night before, and he was playing Guardian, and I hit turn 2 260. He we just went to bed after that. But the deck is very good into Dark, but like I said, Zorgar's not playing Oricorio anymore because you got to attack for Dark stuff now. But I think like the deck is going to be played and will probably do well if you hit the right matchups. But of course, it has the same kind of like dysfunctions as Ultra Necrozma does because it's a special energy consistent deck, and you need to like just go ham as fast as possible, and sometimes that can bite you in the end. Like I only lost games because I either dead drew or I got end toxins, and that's just not fun. And yeah, I feel like that's the only sort of rogue deck I've ever even like tried. I tried Sable Garb for a little bit, but every time I've like tried to play the deck, even though I've never really played it before, it just kind of relied on hoping your opponent just dead draws off of a N or Ace Trainer paired with Garbotoxin, and then you can lock from there. But everything else just kind of felt either mediocre or it's just bad into Dark because of Guzzlord existing.
Yeah. Interesting. Catron, how about you?
Hunter mentioned it, but yeah, people are really sleeping on Pikarom. Everyone knows that I've generally hated Pikarom in every single format I've been part of, but right now I actually really, really like it. I think Great Catcher is a huge addition. And then I've been playing, my list actually right now has a Captivating Pokepuff and a Target Whistle in it. And I'm just trying to end the game in 2 turns if possible.
Wow.
I want to full blitz once and then Tag Bolt for the last 4 prizes. And the deck pretty much just can't beat Ultra Necro, but everything else I think is pretty favorable. It's just way more aggressive than anything else in the format and can keep pace with Dark while also having an option like if you can set it up, you can full blitz for like a knockout on a Shaman and then put all your energies onto Marshadow GX, and then Dark just loses the game. Wow. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Pikarom, and I really like it right now. And then my rogue pick is the Toad Pyro deck I talked about on Celios. It has a lot of super strong matchups, but has almost no ability to beat anything, even semi-rogue, because it's your goal is to just set up a specific lock in every single matchup, and if a rogue comes out that you don't have a lock against, you lose the game. So like any fighting stuff, you're not going to beat, but I think the deck's pretty strong for the expected meta.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super neat. I like that. That's the Pokepuff especially is something I would expect from you to end the game pretty quickly and catch people sleeping. So that's awesome. Tanner, any one prizes or rogues or any decks you think that are slept on that need to be considered?
Yeah, I think Dolls is pretty good if you can figure out the inherent problems and kind of fix the deck. The deck could be pretty good. I tried Pidgey with 3 Peaking Red card and 3 Shuffle. That could be pretty good.
Wow.
I don't really know what else though.
Yeah. Okay. It seems like, I mean, there's just so much out there. You know, I'm sure that we'll see things like, I'm not sure if there's a stream or not, but if there was a stream, we're probably going to see a little bit of everything. It's kind of surprising to me that there's not a lot of fighting being talked about.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lucario is
Yeah.
actually a decent deck.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. That's what I'm going to play if I go.
I think
Lucario's
Lucario.
all right.
I think Lucario is the worst GX Pokemon to ever be considered competitively viable.
Why?
It doesn't do anything. That card's just bad.
I'm going to disagree with Catron. I think Lucario has some strong points to it. One is you can run Power Plant, so that's nice. You can run a lot of Power Plant. Another thing you can run that is nice is Focus Sash. Being able to survive a hit and then Cantankerous Beatdown is nice. I'm not going to sit here and preach like go play Lucario because I don't think it's like the best deck ever. But I will say that you could probably beat Dark if you play well. You could probably beat Zoroark if you play well. I don't know about other decks. That's all. That's the knowledge that I have on Lucario.
All right. The
Okay.
biggest issue I have with Lucario is that like you evolve one and then I kill your Riolu and then the game's kind of over sometimes.
Yep. You know, but who wants to take one prize when you can take 2?
Well, I don't want my Pikarom to die. I'm killing the Riolu.
Right?
Interesting. Cool. Okay, so I think that there's just so much to be discovered, and hopefully on this video you guys out there watching have learned a little bit, or maybe heard something that you want to try, especially something maybe along the lines of Ultra Beast, as we got a nice 10-minute lecture on the merits of a nice Beast Box deck, which I'm personally going to go try right after this video. Pretty excited about that.
I'll send it to everybody in this call. I'll give. I don't care about this.
Membership has its benefits, man. I'm excited to try it. So we're gonna end it here. You know, we've gone for almost an hour now. We've given you guys a whole lot of stuff about Expanded. Like I end every video, I kind of want to just give you guys an opportunity to shout out your teams, where you're writing for, things you have going on, anyone in your testing circle that might deserve a shout out. We'll start with Tanner.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Silka. Shout out to John. Shout out Isaac.
Yeet.
Yeah.
Tanner, why don't you go ahead and just say all that stuff again one more time? I don't know. Did he cut out for anybody else?
Yeah, it cut out for me.
Okay, go ahead and just.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, you cut out. So
All
just
right.
go ahead and say that one more time.
All right, yeah. Shout out to the Silpco. Shout out to my test group, the Boomers, and yeah, that's
Cool. Okay, Hunter.
Shout out to Carter Tap, Finn Lynch, Halo Overnight, Joe Sanchez, Carter Barsh, Mike Morton. Go check out our website. We write weekly articles. We just put up one with a free Zorogarb list, and then our best testing Dark list and best testing Ultra Necrozma list, I believe, in the newest one. Shout out to Silphco. We've actually, Finn and the other guys, they've been working alongside for a couple decks, so shout out to those guys. They've been some good help. Shout out to you for having me here, and hopefully I see you in Dallas and see everybody else in Dallas.
I think we're gonna get there, man. I'm really thinking about it. This whole discussion has gotten me closer to going. I will say that. Arlo, what's up, man? Give me your shout outs.
Yeah, shout out to my team, Nerd Rage Gaming. They've helped a lot with everyone on the team this season. They've been great. And also shout out to Potown Store. I write for them and also work on their website a lot.
Nice.
And finally, shout out to my testing partners, Ben Cryer, Isaac Molaski, and Alec Geisler. They've been a huge help in every tournament preparation I've been doing.
That's a good group you got there, man. Those kids are all right. So thank you for coming, Arlo. It's been awesome. Mike, take us home, man.
Shout out to my team, Nerd Rage Gaming. Yeah, they've helped me a lot this season. I probably wouldn't even have consideration of going to Dallas at the point if wasn't for them. And then also shout out to Joe. He hooks me up with the rooms at every event. Also wouldn't go to events without Joe. And then shout out to Bradner. He's pretty much the only person I test with.
That's a good one. Guys, if you like what you saw today, make sure you like, share, and subscribe using everything down below, the buttons and all that stuff. If you want to take your support for Rare Candy a step further, you can support us on Patreon. There is a link in the description. A pledge as low as $1 gets you some really sweet perks. But yeah, think about it if you like what you saw from us today, whether in the past. We have some cool Sword and Shield stuff coming up in the future from me and the rest of the guys. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that down there to support further. Otherwise, my name is Carl. We'll see you guys in Dallas. Peace.